would please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item number 3, to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move item 3.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on today's agenda? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Item number 4 is to approve the previous meeting minutes.
Move the minutes, Mr. Chairman. Second.
Motion and a second. Questions or comments on last week's minutes? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion's approved. Item number 5 is to approve drainage claims. We have a few. Drainage District number 77, Webster, 111 Calhoun. Reading section 13, we have tree roots in the tile. Drainage District number 64, clay section 31, we have a washout. Drainage District number 247, Webster, 7 Hubble, Newark section, we have a tile blowout. Drainage District number 4, 272 Hamilton, lateral 5, Colfax section 8, we have a washout and a dredge ditch. Drainage District number 19, Otho Township, section 32, we have up to 60 feet of material to connect a dredge ditch, including a surface drain.
Mr. Chairman, I motion to move item 5.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on today's drainage claims? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 5 carries. Item number 6 is to receive and place on file pay increase for Jenna Carlson from $1735.63 to $1813.73, effective November 9th, 2018, per recommendation of Jessica Weirmont, Supervisor, Child Support Recovery.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to move item number 6.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second on item number 6. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? Item 6 carries. Item number 7 is a request. Approve request for Kaylee Wolf to be moved from part-time to full-time, effective November 4th, 2018, per the request of Steve Ellerfritz, Jail Administrator.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move item 7.
Second.
Motion and a second. Questions or comments on item number 7? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 7 carries. Item number 8 is to receive and place on file proposals for a 2-year contract for snow removal at the bank building of 723 First Avenue South, Fort Dodge.
Chairman, I'll move item 8.
Second.
Motion and a second. Doreen?
So we have one bid that came in. It was from Castor Construction, snow removal estimate, full push of property per push $160, and snow removal full salt application per application $280 is the rate.
Okay. I'm going to take a motion to receive and place that on file, and I have a second. Any questions or comments on that?
Looks like he did it last year. He did a really good job at the technical officer.
Okay. All in favor to receive and place on file, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 8 carries. Item number 9 is to approve the low bid proposal for snow removal at the bank building at 723 First Avenue South, Fort Dodge.
Mr. Chairman, I motion we accept the low bid for snow removal.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the low bid from Castor Construction. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Item number 10 is to receive and place on file annual manure management plan from Bob and Travis Hicks at 3925 Baxter Avenue, Gowrie.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to move item 10.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Questions or comments?
He's made no changes to his operation.
Questions or comments from the floor? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 10 carries. Item number 11 is to receive and place on file the 2018 Weed Commissioners Report submitted by Andy Stanford, Weed Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move item 11.
Second.
Motion and a second. Mr. Stanford.
I was just gonna go through the weed commissioner report quickly. It's the same as every other year. Kind of goes through the noxious weed list for the state of Iowa and what kind of issues we have with each weed within the county. It goes through some of the costs associated with the chemicals and just our contract costs. We do contract with B&W Weed and Brush Control out of Algona for our noxious weed spraying. They're contracted to spray half the county each year. This year they did the south half the county. This year we're doing the brush control in-house, and we're doing the most southern quarter this year. So it just kind of goes through some of the methods and all the chemicals we use. It's pretty much straightforward, the same every year. It has a map with some of the weed complaints. We just had 3 of them this year, so that was about the same as last year, which is pretty good considering a few years ago we had 12 to 15. So I would still say that the state of the weeds in the county are about the same. This year was a real challenging year just because of all the rain. Difficult to actually get in and spray them with all the water in the ditches. So other than that, pretty typical, the same as every other year, just some challenging aspects as far as timing, and as far as weed control. We're still working on brush control for this south quarter, and we'll be continuing to do that probably for the next month or so. And also, just to remind anybody, if anybody has any weed complaints, I can always be reached out of Kennedy Park. I'm stationed up there. So if there's any questions, anybody?
Questions or comment for the annual Weed Commissioners Report? Noxious Weed Commissioners Report. Thank you. All in favor to receive and place on file?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Item number 12 is to receive and place on file 12-month pay increase to $22.68 per hour for Jacob Moore, Class A equipment operator, effective October 30th, 2018, and a payroll dated of November 9th, 2018.
Mr. Chairman, I move item 12. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions or comments on item number 12? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Item 12 carries. Item number 13 is to approve and authorize the chair to sign a permit from Northern Natural Gas to repair and install test leads and test stations on their natural gas pipeline at the following locations. 1 near intersection of 170th Street and Xavier Avenue in Section 11, Township 89 North, Range 27 West. 2 near intersection 250th Street and Sampson Avenue in Section 18, Township 88 North, Range 27 West. And 3 near intersection 340th Street and Hayes Avenue in Section 31, Township 87 North, Range 29 West.
Mr. Chairman, I motion we move item 13.
I'll second it. We have a motion and a second. Questions or comments on the Northern Natural Gas permit? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 13 carries. Item number 14 is to approve and authorize the chair to sign a permit from Mid-American Energy to shorten the overhead span of electrical line north of 2861 Fairbanks Avenue in Section 1, Township 87 North, Range 30 West.
Chairman, I make a motion to move item 14.
I'll second.
Motion and a second on item number 14. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 14 carries. Item number 15 is to approve and authorize the chair to sign a contract documents with Midwest Contracting, LLC of Marshall, Minnesota for reinforced concrete box culvert replacement project, BRS SWAP CO 94-113-FF94 on D18 between sections 16 and 21, Townships 89 North, Range 27 West, Colfax Township.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move item 15.
Second. Motion and a second. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Item number 16 is Bob Lincoln with County Social Services. Or, do I have it? I'm sorry. I have the old one. Hold on one second.
Sure.
We're gonna Upper Des Moines. So yeah, I have the old one.
Sorry.
That's okay. Item 16 is Upper Des Moines. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, how are you?
Good.
I'm good. This is the annual thing we keep coming, this I think year 7 for me to come up here. I tell you every year that I'd be coming back, and here I am again. We just like to update all of our counties, the 12 that we serve in northwest Iowa, and let them know the numbers, the amount of money that we expend into your communities, and in some cases to some counties where their investment in this services go. In Webster County last year, again, we continued to see a slight increase in the numbers. We served 4,943 individuals and 2,141 households at a cost that we pumped into your economy of $1.2 million. Unfortunately, Webster County is one of the few organizations or counties that do not subsidize the services that we provide. However, you do have agencies in the community that have done so, such as United Way, and we are thankful for them for every penny that they provide to us. When we look at the reports that we have here, the biggest amount of money has been in the area of emergency and energy services that we provide, which would include our low-income housing energy assistance program that we put, or LIHEAP is what we call it. We live in a myriad of alphabet soup. So the other ones that we provide under there would also be what we call ESIP, which is the emergency utility payments that we pay for individuals. That total amount for those energy services that we provided to your community came to $828,000. Some of that included weatherizing homes as well. Some of that also included putting furnaces into homes where there was a sudden problem up there and people having to suffer with no heat or whatever. We helped to prevent that from ongoing issues. So the other area of huge need was in your special projects. I'm sure a lot of you are aware. An example of some of those projects would be the back to school backpack thing that they do here in the community. And also during the holidays, we see a lot of special projects occur that we provide. I don't know, is Angel Tree one of them? We don't do that here? Okay. But some of the other special projects that we do for families in need. One of the ones that we see a decrease, but we still see numbers on, which surprises me every year, is in the area of food. We stopped doing that several years back. You had several food pantries in there. We didn't see a need to be redundant with the services, but we still see a draw for food in there, which is interesting, to the tune of about $5,000 a year. So that continues to be a drive in your community, just to make you aware, even though we don't invest a lot into that. There still is a huge need. You got anything you want to add? We have moved our offices this year. As a matter of fact, they're in the process of doing that right now. What's the new entrance?
1325 First Avenue South.
Okay. So we moved out of the Episcopal Church, and we are now located there as of November 1. So much bigger space, bigger accommodations, it makes it easy for us to deliver our services better. So one of the things that we do want to note, though, is, and then we say this in the letter, is I know that you guys have put a lot of money and effort into your job relief. We are going to continue, and we're thankful that there is another partner in the community for that. We're going to continue to drive referrals there. We are sitting, I think, somewhat playing somewhat tennis volley here. We send them there, but they come back. We're still serving them at a large length, which we'll continue to do, and we don't turn anybody away if there's a need. We do, however, hope that at some point we can work together more of a partnership. And to us, partnership is a very important word. It's one where both parties give and take. Right now, we're doing a lot of giving, but we're not doing a lot of taking. And that's something I hope that we can change here in the future. But again, we just wanted to provide you with this data, share with you the information that we do, and tell you we'll see you next year. And please consider us in your budget. You bet. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. And I do want to thank Allison. I know you've been a great part. Alyssa, working with public health and general lead, so we appreciate that a lot.
Lincoln County Social Services. I'm back. Last time here, you were generous enough to give me several minutes to share with you what County Social Services was doing as a region. I came back today, hopefully to have more of a conversation about Webster's partnership in the region specifically. I did prepare some numbers, although I did prepare a report for you that's still in process. The CSS board did move to do quarterly utilization reporting by quadrant. But we've had a lot of conversations and requests specifically by county. And this is a conversation that all the regions have. Our statewide database collects information based on clients. That's what drives our eligibility, that's what drives our expenditure. We don't know, we don't care where a person ends up. If we're measuring dollars by county, how much money goes back to that county, that can create a lot of unintended consequences. So again, the whole focus is to make sure all clients are served, make sure they're served where they want to in their community is the hope and desire. But like I said, as a system, as we move from a county to a regional system, this is a serious conversation that everybody's having, and it does create some tension, especially when you put X amount of dollars in. How do you then go to the taxpayers and say this is what the taxpayers got for their money? So that kind of prefaces why I'm here. Before we get into too much detail, I did want to share some information with you. I'll leave these if anybody wants to grab a brochure or card, and they leave or a few of them. This is We're Life, Iowa. This is a statewide mental health crisis line that's answered by mental health professionals. At the end of the day, we want to do everything we can to reduce suicides and getting folks to engage, asking folks the question if they're thinking about killing themselves is the best thing that we can do to intervene in that. The crisis line is for all mental health needs. It's also for substance abuse and for gambling, supported by the Department of Public Health. So if you'd help me get the word out. In addition to that, County Social Services does offer mental health first aid. And this year so far, we've provided 8 8-hour trainings. We've got 5 more on the calendar, and we're willing to offer that to any agency within the region that will guarantee at least 50 individuals. The maximum we can instruct at any time is 25. We've had a lot of interest and happy to share that good curriculum. So, to keep from rambling on, are there specific questions that I can address from the board?
It was my understanding that you were coming today to share the numbers for our county.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So, what are the numbers that you're looking for? What are numbers that?
Number of people served, number of services provided.
Okay. So, in terms of number of folks served in fiscal year 2018, and again, we're still closing our approval book, so I preface all this with this is estimates. We served 641 individuals, unduplicated, if you will. If you look at that as in terms of a percentage of how many we served as a region in fiscal year 2017, which was 6,830, that's about 9.4% of the folks served. So in relative terms, Webster County represents 8% of the CSS region and 9% of the individuals served. And I do want to take an opportunity also talk about CSS as a region. The 6,830 individuals served is in the context of 30,000 people served for fiscal year 2017 statewide. County Social Services had a penetration rate, or we served 23% of all of those folks served in the state. We don't represent 23% of the population, we only represent 15% of the population. And so, County Social Services being the first region, I think we have the broadest coverage. We cover folks with brain injury, we cover folks with developmental disability, and through our partnership with the AAA, we've done everything we can to serve those folks that aren't being served by any other means. So that's the big numbers. In terms of the dollars, we spent, and so these are specific dollars attached to individuals. In fiscal year 2018 so far, we spent $1,257,000 on individual service. And then as a region, we had about $3 million of additional expenditures that weren't attached to individuals. So if we appropriate that on a per capita basis, that's $240,000. So your share, I guess, and again, I hate going down this road, but your share spent would be $1,497,000, or let's say $1.5 million. The revenue requested for fiscal year 2018 was, I guess I calculated that wrong. I calculated on 3518. It was actually 3318 last year. So that was $1,230,000. So again, probably a $250,000 additional was allocated or spent in Webster County than was received. But that's expected, and we see that in our hub communities. Because again, what we know about people, particularly people with persistent mental illness, they have to go where the services are, and the services are in more rural areas. Our whole focus is, how do we push those services out? How do we build that community capacity so people don't have to relocate to get the services that they need? In terms of other services, rent was mentioned earlier. We served 144 folks with rent assistance, spent about $80,000. We served 363 people in service coordination. That could be an array of services, getting folks connected. Very proud of our peer support services in this community. Probably the largest saturation of peer services in the region. We serve 79 individuals with peer support services at a cost of about $67,000. And so that's really something we want to build on and expand throughout the region. Certainly MHI expenditures, mental health institute expenditures, it continues to be a significant amount. $188,000 was spent. That's for 8 individuals. So that's what you have in mental health and disability services, is you have a small number of folks driving large dollars, and that's the benefit of the pooling and averaging those risks. Are there other specific numbers?
You said you served 363 in service coordination.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a cost associated with that?
Yeah, the service coordination by itself was $189,000. And again, that's something I'm really proud of here in Webster County. We have a very strong team. We have help me out, Allison, how many people do we have in office here?
About 5.
Got 5 here. We just went through conversations with other regions and other counties, looking at what would their services look like if they were regions. And one region had a specific formula that if they absorbed a county of this size, they would have one service coordinator and one office person. And so for this particular county, that was going to be a staff reduction of nearly five individuals. So again, county social services is unique. We're the only county that does provide case management reimbursed through Medicaid. That gives us another person, that gives us another revenue source, that gives us another integration with the Medicaid system. We're very excited about what's happening with our iStart program. The iStart program is our specialized interdisciplinary teams that supports folks with intellectual disability and mental illness. Nationally, the program continues to expand. Colorado is just completing their pilot project. Maryland is just rolling out a statewide implementation of their program in December and January. So it's very exciting to have a program that we think is a national best practice for serving this population. And our East Central region out of Lynn County has indicated that they're interested in expanding the program to their region. And so we hope going forward we can have a conversation with Medicaid, get that service reimbursed, and so that we can leverage our discretionary dollars for additional gaps in the system. Next month, we hope to start drawing down Medicaid dollars for our Crisis Stabilization Center. That again will free up dollars for reinvestment. The largest investment for county social services going forward is in this service area. We have had a lack of psychiatric beds for a very long time, and the need to transport people out of the community when their services and their providers are here. We're hoping the subacute crisis stabilization platforms will give us that opportunity to build that capacity, but that certainly won't happen without any significant investment. We do think, again, thanks to our great quadrant team, our monthly expenditures are coming now well under our 3518 levy. So we do believe we'll have dollars for the board to consider that investment, hopefully as early as the spring, but no later than going into next year.
I had a question just on some of the language.
Yes.
For you to clarify, you were talking on some of these numbers that like 641 were served in Webster County.
Yes.
Do you know if those are actual 641 Webster County residents or just that services were provided in this county?
Yeah. So
do we have data on that?
Well, that's the whole problem with numbers. What that number is when we paid that claim, we had that person with an address in Webster County. That person could have been in Waterloo, they could have been in Des Moines, but the last address we had. So that's how the database.
And that's fair. I just didn't know if you were using something like that, which I understand those can ship, or whether you're using the place you pay being in Webster County and chalking it up to a citizen.
No.
Okay.
No, it's actually driven by the individual.
Okay.
And by the specific claim. So, to ISAC's credit, I mean, it is a pretty clean database in terms of tracking that data. And again, in terms of, I know statements have been made that this is public information, it should be out there. Again, it's just if you look at the statewide dashboard that they just came out with, the department, that's FY 2017 numbers. It took them nearly a year to generate a clean, what they think is a clean report. And then after they issued that report, just about every CEO challenged the numbers in the report. So numbers are a powerful thing. We all respond to numbers. But it's the context, it's the assumptions that are built into those numbers that are really important.
So just, the rent was 80,000 for 144 people for the year, 55,000 each.
If that's, I'm not gonna do it in my head if that's what it turns out, yeah. And again, a lot of the folks that we support with housing, most of it's not one and done. It's folks that most likely have a significant disability. And so we're providing that basic needs support until their Social Security is approved. Now we do have a very aggressive interim assistance recovery program. So before we provide any basic needs, we sign folks up for Social Security. We send that paperwork into Social Security, and then if they're determined eligible, we can back collect on their what they call their back payment. So if you apply for Social Security today and you're approved a year from now, Social Security will pay you as if you were eligible the day you applied. And so sometimes we're able to recover some money that way. We do everything we can to make sure we do that. Our folks do a lot of benefit management. That's why our service coordination is such an important investment, getting people access to the benefits that they have. I was fortunate that we expanded Medicaid, and if we work with somebody, chances are we can get them insurance, get them coverage for their medical care. And again, even and I know Berry Hill has been excellent at helping us. They too have an investment in getting people eligible, because it's not just the mental health. It's if they turn around and present in the hospital, that coverage is very, very important to their business model as well.
So do they come in every month and reapply, or the whole year?
For our services?
Like the rent, just make it for the rent, yeah.
Well, for the rent, it can be. Again, we do everything we can to make it a short term. Our policy now is we can approve up to 3 months. And then if a person is engaged in services and in a plan and recovery, basically most of our authorizations right now are 3 months. The actual application process is usually good for a year. We update their application with their income and resources and verify their diagnosis.
We had a question on our most recent bill, and for some reason, it's the whole, or the rest of the year all at once. Doreen, do you want to address that?
Well, they requested, we've been getting a request for like 320-some thousand, and this time we requested the 640, which is pretty much depleting our funds.
Right.
And I have a concern with that, because if they deplete our funds, and we still have payments to make for people that are our employees,
Absolutely.
then it just kind of concerned me, so that we weren't shorting ourselves in the long run.
Yeah, cash flow is something we haven't had to worry about in the past, but now we do, because the law is by 2020, we can only have a 20% of fund balance. A 20% fund balance, when you only collect revenue twice in a year, means you're gonna run out of money between your allocations. So what Lori is doing, and kind of the program we set up, is we're trying to make sure that all of our member counties have at least 3 months of operating cash. And then our request now comes in when you should be collecting most of the first half of your levy request. So I don't know where that's at in terms of posting, but hopefully you will have the money within the next 30 to 60 days. And if it is a pinch, then you just need to call Lori and we'll adjust that request. We certainly aren't going to make anybody definite spend, because that's illegal. So we're not going to do that. But I know for auditors, it's a real pain. It is a challenge. Absolutely appreciate your support.
One of the other questions is, I know in some of your past board meetings that Supervisor Thode has shared with us, you guys have hired an HR person.
Yeah.
And you're having the conversation of making our county employees regional employees. How many other regions are looking at doing this? Are you the only one at this time?
Well, the conversation I heard at the CEO meeting is, we're all talking about it, but we're waiting to see how you do it and the mistakes that you make with it, and then we'll copy. So this isn't something I'm anxious to lead the way on. Our staff have been through a lot of transitions, and this relationship, this partnership we have with our member counties works good 98% of the time. And I think unfortunately, this process is driven, by that unfortunate outlier. So at this time, this is a direction of the board to explore it. This is the mandate that they gave the consultant to see what our options are. What does that look like? Now, my only agenda in that is the expansion of the iStar program. This is where it gets really sticky for our member counties, is to expand this program to, we have a coordinator who works out of Rolling Hills, Southern Iowa, and then we have one that works out of Storm Lake. When I come to a member county and say, we'd like you to hire an employee that lives, 100 miles away, then we get a little pullback. And that's the other tension we have. And then July 1st, if we expand iStar to the East Central region, we're looking at another additional 5 individuals that need an employer of record that will be living and working outside of the member counties. What are your thoughts about that?
It just, we've had conversations, it just seems a little bit, I think the original concept of a region was to hire somebody like you to come in and take a group of counties to work together to make sure that we're providing the best services possible. It does appear that this conversation of a region is now evolving into its own company per se, rather than the county. Although we acquiesce our funding to you, ultimately the code still states that if the liability fund falls back on us. So it's very challenging for us to say, yeah, go ahead and create this, take our employees, but ultimately we're sitting here with all the liability. And quite honestly, I know Supervisor Thomas tried for 18 months. This is really the first time we've had numbers. It's very challenging to give up that while we hold basically every bit of liability if somebody comes in not getting services.
Well, I'm really glad you raised that point, because that, again, unfortunately, CSS is paving the way in that area too. We have a member county that stopped reimbursing, and the conclusion was they're not responsible, that the region is responsible, that the Attorney General says the only language that speaks to the obligation to serve folks with mental health and developmental disability lies with the designated region. And so that has fallen back on us. But you've crystallized the tension and the reason for the politics are in play. How do we balance that role of the counties that historically have been responsible, to your point, and move that to a region? So there's that sense of loss, and then what do we want to hang on to in that relationship too? I don't think there's a simple answer to it, and I respect what you're saying. It creates challenges, and I know with you've seen in the news with a lot of conversations about counties moving. Well, it's I've had regions call me and say thanks for the trouble. We were getting along just fine until they opened the conversation about changing their region. And so I will tell you, this last 4 years of bringing 22 counties together has been very challenging. And it really didn't sink into me the complexity of what we were dealing with until I attended a conference out in Pennsylvania. And that's all they talked about was merger and acquisitions and how that works and how that doesn't work. And I'm thinking, good heavens, County Social Services merged 22 organizations and then 9 case management entities into one. And we had a little struggle, surprise, surprise. 2 companies coming together trying to make one, and sometimes take a decade to merge those cultures. So I've really learned to respect that counties are not at all similar. other than their counties. And they bring their unique and their values into an organization. And again, that's what makes us strong, and that's what poses our challenges at the same time. So I really don't know. And in terms of, I think the question was brought up too, which region is best for Webster County. I hope you know that my job is to serve you as elected officials. I'm not flying a banner here. I do take a lot of pride in what County Social Services has been able to do by our size and the investments we've made. But at the end of the day, like any relationship, if the partners aren't happy, if they don't feel like there's a fit, then we're not getting the best out of that relationship. And so anything I can do to support any member county to be happier and more engaged in these services, I will do that.
And I do believe our deadline to make that decision is tomorrow.
It's by contract, it's November 15th. Yeah.
But I think Supervisor Code said the state changed it to the 1st.
It's the 15th, I think that's what it says in the 20D.
Well, maybe you guys say that.
Yeah, and that's been an interesting thing too. That's what we've learned, is that the department isn't playing a heavy hand in this at all. It really comes down to our member counties deciding what they want to do together. Again, that's the power and the challenges that's a partnership. And then when we're not agreeing, who's going to referee, who's going to negotiate those differences. I would tell you we're moving forward, I think, in a very positive way with our dispute. But again, a lot of questions haven't been answered yet. What are things we can be doing to make Webster County happier with this partnership?
What's your questions, Bob? I know you've been going to the meetings.
Well, the big thing is, at this point, if we decided to make a change, we need to have somebody to fall back on, and I don't think at this point we have that. One thing to try to clarify here too is you brought up case management twice in your conversation.
Yeah.
Webster County, I don't believe, has any case management. Isn't that out of Butler County? Isn't that where the actual case management, we only have like 1 or 2 people?
Well, the boss is here. So Allison is she runs the case management program, and we do have one case manager office here, and then one office in Mason City.
Right, but wasn't that?
Correct, so what that is, the 2080 agreement that we created when we merged those 9 counties, we provided actually in 26 counties of case management, and then we had to, of course, lay off employees, so we left 2 that were eligible to do the HIP case management. So everything fiscal actually runs out of Butler County, nothing. Our Webster County case management, NPI was actually, the legacy number was discontinued back in 2015. So we just have an employee on record who's actually working at that 2080 in Butler, and she's just an employee of record in Webster County, as well as I have one in Sarah Bordeaux, if that clarifies it.
Yeah, so it's so there's actually it's a cost-based program. So we currently actually with the managed care, it's actually generating a little revenue. The other revenue we have is we bill the 2 other regions for a portion of our overhead for the iStart program, and that's to reduce the cost of that as well. So other than the property tax, those are our 2 revenue streams. We're hoping, Jim Aberg, our iStart director, is retiring at the end of the year. We hope to retain him on a contract basis to try to drive more Medicaid reimbursement for some of the things that we're doing, so we can sustain it. What are your thoughts about the Access Center? Is that something that you're supportive? Is that something you understand? You think it has value to the community?
My understanding of the Access Center, and we've had some conversations with some local partners here in respects to that, is if we would model it after, say, Story County, the county went in and remodeled and purchased a facility, the hospital there is providing the services, and the region is the funder. Is that the same model you're looking at here?
The Story, I think that's just crisis stabilization. Are they doing it, or is that going to be an Access Center?
I think they divided it 4 and 4, is my understanding. It's an 8-bed facility, was the last I heard, so.
Okay.
I don't know if it's actually, I think next week it opens.
I think just operationally right now, it is just the crisis stabilization. I believe that they also did receive a Medicaid contract, I believe, where they're purchasing that so that it wouldn't be directly county funded.
Yeah. So we've been doing crisis stabilization since 2012. In fact, when we opened the doors to our crisis center February 1st, 2012, the department closed us the next day. And then we had to get, because there was no such thing as a crisis stabilization center. So then we had to create what a crisis stabilization center was. That now, we think that will open as an access center February 1st. They have their subacute beds. We think they have their MCO contracts in place. What I envision, and I think the department's vision is a little different for access centers, but for me, the primary deliverable for an access center is a place for law enforcement to be in and out within like 15 minutes of anyone needing mental health or substance abuse assistance. So the vision we've had for an access center has been the Lancaster Crisis Center in Lincoln, Nebraska, and then the Restoration Center in San Antonio, Texas, which both have really focused on that. I think the department has a broader sense, but I think if we really want to impact the number of folks that are incarcerated with mental illness or not getting access to treatment, I think that needs to be our focus. But we'll sure check out what I think. Mary Greeley has done the White House, the crisis beds for some time. I didn't know about them moving. I'll have to check that out.
Since we've had the conversations, you want to share with everybody what an access center is, because I don't think a lot of people know.
Yeah, an access center, again, I don't know how it came up in the state work group, but that's what we decided to call it. And the vision of the access center is kind of an array of services, really more than anything a hub, where folks can get assured access, timely access to psychiatric intervention. House File 2456 envisions a minimum of 6 access centers, and the deliverable for law enforcement is we shouldn't have to travel more than an hour and a half to get somebody access to mental health care. So that's how we came up with the 6. There's still, the rules are still being cleaned up, but there's kind of two thoughts around it. One is it's a physical place with subacute, crisis stabilization, detox, mobile crisis, whatever's needed to provide immediate access to folks. And then there's another vision that it's virtual, that maybe it's a phone number where folks are guided into the most appropriate level of care. Maybe the access center starts at a rural critical access hospital with an evaluation, and then based on that evaluation, a person is accessed the appropriate level of care. So it would have, at a minimum, it would have access to a subacute bed, which is a medical monitored bed, and it would have access to a prescriber, social workers, and then it'd be a platform to triage, move folks to the most appropriate level of care.
Do you envision those being region-based, meaning would clients be able to jump regions in respects to if somebody in Hamilton needed to come over to ours, and if we did it here, they're able to?
That is a fantastic question, and I think that's the most significant thing about this recent legislation, 2456, is that it really defines statewide infrastructure, that the regions have to support and reimburse it, but it would have to be access to people by geography. And so I think the vision would be, once the 6 are up, if there were only 6, then each county would be designated in one of those catchment areas, again, the one that's the closest, and then the regions would be mandated to fund anybody eligible that goes into those. So again, no, to your point, it would not be regionally based, it'd be regionally supported and state.
Wasn't there something in the language of 100 miles, I believe?
Yeah, 100 miles, 90 minutes. Well, for you, I don't know how long it takes you to do that. Maybe that's 50 minutes, 100 miles.
questions from the floor?
Oh, that'd be great.
Everybody knew you were coming today. We usually don't get a crowd like that.
Yeah, that's great. Well, these are exciting times. There's a lot of things going on, and you know, there's a lot of attention to mental health in the political races. So, and a lot of this House File 2456 really it has been recognized nationally. This is a big step forward for a state to be so specific in defining 6 access centers, a minimum of 22 assertive community treatment teams throughout the state, the 24/7 crisis line, the 120 bed complex need services. So there are a lot of things happening. But at the same time, I mean, I'm
County Social Services being more of the middle agent or funder in the future, or do you envision yourself as being the hands-on service provider?
No. I think we'll continue to be the gap fillers. And our job will always be to get folks connected with the Medicaid services in our provider network. There just is not enough money for us to sustain long-term support services. And even the iStart program, I don't think we can fund that indefinitely. That at some point has to be attractive to the Medicaid system, and there has to be sustainable dollars. If Medicaid isn't going to buy into it, I don't think it's going to be sustainable. So we'll be. And again, we're at like $16 million. That's not much for 22 counties, but it gives us some opportunity to close some gaps and reach out to those rural areas.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, thank you. It was a good conversation.
Appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Anytime.
The next item on the agenda is the citizens' opportunity to address the board with items not on the agenda. Bailey?
Sure. Well, if nobody wants to.
Well, come on.
Just, I guess for clarification, so everybody knows, and I talked to Doreen, I talked to Ben and O'Connor, who, this is the insurance policy on the tower, north tower. I think probably what happened, I talked to Mike Johnson, and he talked to Doreen today, was send the check back. It needs to be made out, instead of just Webster County, it's made out to Webster County Metropolitan Law Enforcement Telecommunications Board, which will not fit on one check. But that's, and I think where the confusion came to begin with is that it was turned in by me. And at the end of my email, it has my name, my position, Webster County. So there are 2 policies. Well, there's 3 policies now. You have the middle tower, I guess, which used to be the south and north tower. And then we have the new one we just bought. So that was the whole confusion on that. So that's taken care of. Another thing is we had 2 take-back days, Friday and Saturday, for a total of 22 pounds between the 2 locations, Hy-Vee Pharmacy and Dayton Pharmacy. I used to do one in Dayton, can't do one in Dayton anymore because Dayton Pharmacy is not there. We'll look at the next one, we'll do them again. I probably have close to 80 pounds to incinerate again, so from people bringing them into the office. So it's a great program, it works fine, it's a good public service, gets the word out there. If you participate in these, there's a lot of people that really appreciate it and want to talk to you while you're there. So it's a good thing. One other thing that's kind of came up, I know there's a question about, and because you've approved claims today, right?
Not yet, we will.
Well, no. There's a question about 911 claim for promotional items. That is addressed in 34A, which allows for that to promote 911. It is also a line item on the budget that the state supplies 911. So I think we need to get it out. I think it's, how can you go wrong by promoting 911, Alert Iowa, text 911? That all needs to be done. So I would encourage you to approve that claim. I don't know the amount, I don't care, but it's not significant, I'm sure. So that's it.
All right.
Does you have any questions for me on those things?
Just one, can you do a take back and date without there being a pharmacy down there, or do you have to have a pharmacy?
I've had a couple requests to do them without a pharmacy. It's a lot tougher because you have to have law enforcement there by their DEA's rules. You not necessarily have to have a pharmacist, but it's one heck of a lot easier if you have a pharmacist there to.
I can tell you when I was there with him, there was times people brought things in that we didn't know, because you do separate certain items. And the pharmacist was incredibly helpful in identifying. Maybe we can have a conversation with the community health clinic down there and work.
Right. Or I was actually thinking about, maybe it was about time to try and move it to the gallery pharmacy, just to get another area. But this came up kind of short, and it can be done, to answer your question. Is it the best way? Probably not.
No, I'm just curious.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, John.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Next item on the agenda is Board of Supervisor Committee reports.
Emergency Management Commission met last week, and they are set up a hiring committee, so we'll be looking at hiring a new emergency manager. Meantime, Scott's going to fill in on a part-time basis, so that's covered right now. Telecom, there was a report there. We met last week, and we're still moving down the road as to what to do with telecommunication centers. And everybody needs to vote next Tuesday or before.
Public Health Board will be Thursday, 1 o'clock at the Bank Building on First Avenue South. And Thursday night, the LifeWorks Foundation fundraiser will be at Fort Frenzy from 5 to 8:30. You can buy tickets at the door.
Last week I had 3 meetings. Mr. Lincoln was kind enough to discuss most of it, so I don't have to hit base on that one. I do have some information with Central Iowa Juvenile Detention and the community resource. I have information here if people like to look at. One's the audit form too, and if anybody's interested, I'll be right up here with me. So please feel free.
County Attorney. All right. Next item is a motion to allow claims.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. Questions or comments on claims? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Last item is a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you very much for coming.